Hello everyone. I wanted to spend a few moments today going over a resource that I use all the time in my classes for the teachers out there. This can be a really valuable resource. It's called the Stanford History Education Group. It's put on by Sam Weinberg and his folks, there's a book that Weinberg has written that accompanies this website. It is primarily designed towards AP history in high school, but I teach it, I use it in my college classes all the time. I thought that I would spend just a few minutes walking you through this because there's a lot of valuable material here, and I think you will be able to find many uses for it in your classes. A lot of the lessons and the assessments are designed around some of the curriculum requirements in AP history, and so there's a lot of nice ways to use this, whether you're in a regular history class, an AP history class, or a college level history class. There's a lot of good things here to use. So the first thing that I might point out here is the URL is SHEG, SHEG.stanford.edu, and you will be taken to this kind of general page. There are several sort of mini sort of pages inside this umbrella page. So the first one, this is one that I spend most of my time using, is called Reading Like a Historian. They have history lessons involved there. Then there's also Beyond the Bubble. These are examples of history assessments that you can use in your class to get at critical thinking rather than simply memorization. This newest and one that they've been putting most of their energy into as of late is the Civic's online reasoning curriculum. Trying to help students figure out what is accurate or authentic information online rather than fake or manipulated information online. How can you tell the difference, and how what do you need to do to interpret correctly? There's also events that they sometimes hold, projects that they're underdoing, publications that they've done, and more about them that you can read about for more information. Now, they do ask you to register so that you can log in to access. You can view materials without having to register, but if you want to download the actual lesson plan, you will have to register. Registration is free. There's no cost with this at all. And then once you have registered, like I have, you can, hopefully I can remember my password. You can log in. You'll see here that this changes to log out once you log in. So a couple of things here. If we start with the Reading Like a Historian, you'll see here history lessons that are broken down into 3 different topics. One is intro materials. If you click on intro materials, you'll see all kinds of interesting things. There's classroom posters. Now that we're registered, you can actually view the poster. So this one is close reading. This is a skill that historians use, and it's in Spanish and in English. So when you click on it, it's just a basic sort of poster that walks you through what the skill of close reading is, right? So what claims the author make, what evidence does the author use, what languages, symbols, context, etc. So that can be useful. There are a lot of other introductory sort of exercises. What is history? There's a poster for that. Evaluating sources. There's a couple of lunchroom fights, more debates that they develop. Snapshot autobiography is a really nice lesson plan, I think, that students can do to think about history by figuring out the sources about their own birth, an event in which they were clearly there, but they'd have no memory of. So they have to sort of listen to primary and secondary sources to understand how they were born. It's a nice little source, and a nice little exercise to do in the classroom. And then one of the most important things here, I use this all the time in my classes, is the historical thinking chart, again in Spanish and English. This walks you through the historical reading skills, sourcing, contextualization, corroboration, close reading. This is what historians do. And then here we have questions about how to do this skill, a sort of self-check. If you're doing this correctly, students should be able to do these things, and then prompts to help you. I actually have my college level students download this and keep this in their folder all the time, because it's such a valuable resource as we go through the semester working on each individual skill and then collectively. So a lot of really good information in this intro materials under the being like a historian, reading like a historian section. Then there are, as you can see, over 150 lesson plans. So there's more in U.S. history, but they also have world history. So U.S. history, if we click on U.S. history, you can see lesson plans like examining passenger lists, going to Massachusetts versus people going to Virginia in the 1630s, I believe. A lesson plan on Pocahontas, the Puritans, the first Thanksgiving, the Salem witch trials. All of these I use in my class. I walk them through, and you can see that there is 9 lesson plans in colonial America, all the way down through all the sort of periodizations of U.S. history to the early 2000s. They do all kinds of interesting things. So if we click on this lesson plan, let's see. Some of this has been changed since I've used it last. You can model your thinking, teaching a primary source here, evaluate sample responses, student grade sample responses, how to grade them, a lot of interesting things there. Create your own mini lesson. So it helps you kind of do your own kind of work. I like this passenger list one because students oftentimes, you can learn a lot just by looking at information here. So here's the lesson plan. So they do a plan of instruction. They have citations here. This one's pretty short because it's pretty simple, but they sort of walk you through the lesson, and then they have the primary sources and the students. So here's the ship. Here's a passenger list of a ship that went to Virginia, and you can see it's mostly young single people, mostly men, very few women, but there are a few. There's a 3-year-old with the unfortunate name Elizabeth Death, and Suzanne Death is probably her mother. And then compare that to this one that goes to Massachusetts, to New England, and you can see that there's families here. There's a wide range of ages, and they even list some of their occupations, servants, of et cetera, and so you can do a lot of nice comparison between Virginia and Massachusetts. So that's just like one example. You can see here that there are many, many, many different sorts of things you could do. Civil War and Reconstruction's a really good one. The Gilded Age. All of these have excellent lesson plans for you to explore. Also, there's world history lesson plans too. There's about 50 of them. Some of them go all the way back to ancient times. I use these two in my ancient world history class. Hammurabi's Code, again, nice way to, there's a PowerPoint that goes with this one. The teacher's material here allows you to develop the lesson plan as you like. Walks you through the PowerPoint and what you can say and what you can do to sort of develop it. This one's a little more in depth than the when we're just looking at the Puritan and Virginia slave voyage lists. And then you can look at the actual sources. So they use excerpts from Hammurabi's Code to sort of help students think about the economy. What was the economy of Hammurabi's time like? What can we learn from his code? And there's all kinds of things here about renters and who's responsible for land and who's responsible for payment, and what was society like here? What was marriage and divorce like in these ancient times? You see that women actually had some rights, for example, according to Hammurabi's Code. And then they have guiding questions for you to fill out, or you could print this off and have your students work on this as well. Some interesting things there. The next thing that I'll draw your attention to briefly is this beyond the bubble. So this kind of parallels reading like a historian. In fact, these two kind of work hand in hand. There's a lot of assessments. So again, we have the same sort of setup here: U.S. history, world history, and then some more historical skills here. You can filter by if you want to concentrate on the sourcing skill or on the contextualization skill. You can click on that and it'll call up all the ones that deal with that. And then, of course, you can click on these two to allow you to contextualize. So here is Dorothea Lange's iconic photograph. There's a really nice discussion here. And then, so if you click on this, they'll give you the assessment. So why might the background information above lead you to question the photograph's reliability? And then students could fill that in. Another second question here: what's the feature of the photo that might lead you to question the reliability? Okay, and you can continue on, and they have several questions for you here. They even provide a rubric here to help you grade the questions with some student examples. So this is proficient. Question 2, proficient. And emergent. So, you know, not quite as good, but they're getting something. And then basic. I think that's the last one. Maybe there's one more. That's the last one. And they give you examples and how to grade and what you're looking for when you're grading. So again, there are a lot of different sorts of assessments here in this. We could do world history, U.S. history, and it's designed to sort of complement the lesson plans that were in the Reading Like a Historian. The last one I have not used a whole lot, but I want to use more, and that's a Civic online reasoning. They're putting a lot of time and energy and resources into this, of course, because of the whole fake news and the ease in which social media can present false, mis, or disinformation. And there's all kinds of resources to help students work their way through this. So again, intro lessons, teaching lateral reading, a little of everything, core for the science classroom, that you can use to kind of help your students determine whether they should believe something or not, maybe when they come across it online. So that's, in a nutshell, what I wanted to walk you through today. Dealing with the Stanford History Education Group. It is a really valuable resource, and I would highly recommend that if you're looking for new lessons or new ways to teach things, or you want to stress more about historical thinking skills and thinking critically, rather than just kind of memorizing or comprehending stuff, if you're at the high school level, the AP level, or the college survey level, these are really valuable resources that I found useful. The students really like. It creates a lot of conversation and debate, and I think you'll be well worth your time if you'd like to use this. All right, take care. I'll see you next time.